In this video, I'm going to be giving you guys every single tip, trick, and actionable step that I know and I use on a day-to-day basis to pitch and sell to 7 to 9 figure companies. Now, by the end of this video, you guys will know exactly how I get in front of them, how you can too. We personally have been getting in front of, I think, the most 7 to 9 figure companies in specific the software space in these last 3 to 4 months than I ever had in the past 4 years of me being in the marketing space as a whole. So everything's fresh in my head. I have a lot of key insights to talk to you guys about. And the first thing to jump straight into the value is understanding where you're at in B2C and B2B sales. Now, there's a huge common misconception that B2B sales and B2C sales are completely different. Now, I'm not going to have any huge breakdowns on the screen. This is specifically going to be as if I was sitting in front of you and speaking to you and just kind of giving you like all the knowledge, all the game that I know. Now, when I've sold to these software companies that are partnered with enterprise level businesses like Shell, Make-A-Wish, all these other companies, I've noticed a few key things actually. First thing is that B2C and B2B are a little bit different, but there's a huge misconception as to the vastness that they're completely opposite. Now, if you were to like go to Stanford, like a prestigious Ivy League school, and you were to graduate from there, right? And you had a lot of friends, you had a good circle, and you decided to go into business and start your own business and company after graduation. Now, if you knew that your friend's dad was a, wealthy private equity guy who invests in a bunch of businesses, you could probably just call up your friend and immediately get that good referral. And the dad would be able to help you, and you sort of had a shoe in. You've had a leg in, basically. And so what a lot of people don't understand is that B2B and B2C are still relationship oriented. Every single process, whether you're selling a car or you're selling software, is still somewhat of a relationship. Now, the reason why I gave you guys that example about the Ivy League school in Stanford, and if you had a friend, is because all you have to do is just call up that friend, and then you immediately have a network sort of leg in, if that makes sense. And so it's super easy for you to understand and for you to realize that B2B and B2C simply just come down to relationship. Now, what I simply do is you have to get your foot in the door somehow. You have to get in front of these companies somehow. If you think you can just cold email a 7 to 9 figure company, their CEO and their COO or the CFO, whoever it is, and just immediately cold email them and get a perfect response, you're completely wrong. The biggest thing, the most actionable step that I would simply tell you to do is to work your way up. Now, I know it's a pain in the ass to kind of begin with, but you have to start somewhere. Something that helped is just get into a $250 million software company. I'm not going to say their name because everything's still in the sales process, but we got in front of them by reaching out to their senior account executive, so their SAE. So you can literally do this by cold emailing their account executive. I want you to target the people who are maybe, head of marketing, VP of sales, something like that. You want to start off with the lower branches, but branches that have extreme close connectivity to higher branches. So in other words, you don't want to be reaching out to an intern. You don't want to be reaching out to a cashier if you're outreaching to a, sales or grocery retail chain. You want to reach out to somebody who has leverage as well as an authoritative position. So you kind of have to meet in the middle here. It's like the next best thing is if you to reach out to the CEO, but that's obviously very unpredictable and they're most likely not going to respond to you. So you can sell to these 7 to 9 figure companies by simply using free and paid personalized outreach tools. You can find all these leads on LinkedIn Sales Navigator, which is literally like $99 a month. Apollo, who would use that as well. Crunchbase for software companies is super cool as well. I think Clay you can use to personalize. So as far as the tech stack goes, if I were to simply tell you how to get in front of those companies, it's literally just LinkedIn Sales Navigator and it's Clay. Now, if you actually use those two tools and you know how to stack them effectively, it's going to work in your favor to the end of time. So when you reach out to these specific people, you have to sort of approach it from a value-oriented standpoint. I'll give you an example. One specific technique and outreach message that I saw work really well for an e-commerce email marketing agency. I know this guy pretty well. He's doing over 6 figures a month in profit. And what he does really, really, really well is he identifies a common problem in the space. So he has an established common problem that every single e-commerce owner that's doing, 7 to 8 figures annually, there's a very specific problem that he always targets in the email. He says, hey, I looked at XYZ, or hey, I joined your newsletter and saw that you have this XYZ, whatever it is. Then what he says, this is actually increasing the amount of unsubscribes you get per email. Here's how I'd fix it. I see another bottleneck as well. Can I point it out to you over a call? So when you provide value up front to these heads of marketing or these senior account executives, you're actually doing them a favor, because you have to understand it from their standpoint. When I'm reaching out to a software company that's in the 8 or 9 figures, I have to understand that they already have in-house teams built out. They already have multiple in-house teams built out. Actually, they have multiple SDRs. They have a lot of senior account reps, senior account executives. They have a lot of VP of sales. They have an entire combustion of various different titles and organizations and people that I have to speak to directly. And so if you can craft your outreach message to one of those specific avatars and put yourself in their shoes, like what I like to do is I like to go through this mental exercise where I'll sit down at my desk. It's really weird. And I'll sit down as that person. So I'm like, okay, if I were employed by this company, this software company, I'm sitting down at the desk. Okay, what's something I'm going to do today? Okay, well, I have to manage if I'm a head SDR, okay, I'm managing the sales team, or I'm trying to develop a specific sales talent or sales team over here, or I'm trying to place more sales talent in this specific space in the company or within the company. And so as I'm sitting at my desk, I'm visualizing, I'm thinking about, okay, what is the day-to-day of this person? What are their struggles? And if I were to open up the Gmail, app on my phone, or I were to, go to my Gmail inbox on my computer, what emails will actually catch my eye? And I visualize hundreds of different emails that they get, right? Because these guys are getting constantly, jabbed at every single day. And it's what is that one email that's going to catch their eye? And typically it's a mix of value and it's a mix of call outs. Now, you got to make sure, you have to be careful. You can make the most called out email as possible. What I mean by that is you can make the most absurd, just most email blasty email. I used to do this all the time, where it was RE, when are you back in office? And I would just cold email blast that, and it would rip up my domains. The bad thing about that is it would drop the deliverability, because that seems super scammy. If you get a cold email that says, when are you back in office? 90% of the replies are going to be negative. I think I booked in a few calls from there because I actually got them to respond. And then I kind of led them into an appointment setting conversation, but you never really want to take that approach. Now that's on the very far left side of the spectrum if you're talking about disrupting email strategies. On the other side is being way too passive, being weird as well. So the middle ground and how you get in front of these companies is you want to target the head of sales, you want to target the senior account executives, you want to target one of the VPs, you want to target somebody who's at a lower branch, but you can kind of grab them, but they also have leverage and accessibility to the decision makers, whether it's the finance officer or COO or COO, CEO, whatever it is. They actually have leverage to us people. So the biggest thing is identifying who you're speaking to. The second thing you need to do is you need to actually sit down as that person. This is a thought exercise that I remember telling one of my clients months ago. I was sit down and at your desk, think as that person, and you can do it. It's not that hard. All you have to do is just say, okay, I'm in charge of this team every single day. These are my objectives. You can even look up the role. You can even ask ChatGPT, what are the key roles and key objectives of this specific position at XYZ company? And it will spit out 55 different things. So when you sit at your desk, think, okay, what am I doing today? What emails would catch my eye? What specific outreach strategies that somebody could impose upon me that would get my attention? And that is where you're going to see the biggest amount of leverage. Now, that specifically is what helps out the most. Know who you're talking to, speak to them effectively, and get in front of them in the most valuable way possible. And the only thing after that is just relationship sales. That's the way I see it, because when I gave you that Stanford example, as if, you were to hit up an old friend and say, hey, I know your dad's doing XYZ. I need a customer. Let me talk to him. And then the dad immediately goes, yeah, good to go. Or the mom, whatever it is. Now, you were only able to do that because you had a relationship with somebody in close proximity to them. Now, whether you had the relationship with the mom or the dad who actually owned the private equity fund doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. Why? Because you already had a relationship with their son or with their daughter. So just off the basis of that, your credibility goes up. You don't have to show them a Google Slides presentation. You don't have to show them a PowerPoint presentation of all the breakdowns, of all the deliverables, of all the key benefits, of the logistics, the terms. No, because you already have a shoe in basically. And this is exactly what I mean. Every single sale comes down to relationship, and sales is person to person. It looks different for me. It looks different for somebody else. It looks different from the top salesman. Everybody has their own way of selling and the most authentic and true way to themselves. And that is something that I can't teach you. That is something that nobody can teach you. That's something that people can help guide you towards. But at the end of the day, you know what's most comfortable for you, and you have to navigate that on your own. So unfortunately, that's the catch-22. There is no black and white playbook, but you have to just learn. So with that being said, to give you guys a quick recap of how to sell to more 7 to 8 figure companies, even works for 9-figure companies too. It just takes longer because the sales process is identify who you are specifically reaching out to. Get extremely clear on that. Obviously, run through all those, those sourcing techniques using Apollo, using, Million Verifier, using Clay to personalize. There's a bunch of different stuff. I can give you guys a breakdown if you want. Use those, identify who you're speaking to. And in the cold email copy, you need to be able to sit down before you even write out any copy. And you'll be able to understand the weaknesses, the strengths, what are their objectives, what is keeping them up at night, what do they want most from the company, and what do they want most from themselves. But more importantly, how can your offer complement their existing persona? If you can craft a cold email and an offer that actually makes them look better, and you can come in as an agency or as a growth infrastructure or as a business or as a service or as a consultant to make them look better in their own position, people in the corporate world value that a lot because status is a huge thing, especially if they're trying to move up the ladder, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I never get into it. I absolutely hate that shit. So with that being said, that's how you do it. And then it comes down to relationship. You get your foot in the door that way, get on a few calls, follow up, and the rest is literally history. So work your way up. I promise you this will work. This works for me. This has been working for me. This works for my clients. This works for the companies that we help out. And this works for almost every single software company that I personally market for. Now, if you're a software company, you're in the B2B space, you sell B2B, you're doing over $1 million in ARR, first thing is right down below. We basically help you guys expand into upmarket segments, whether that's upmarket clients or upmarket enterprise level deals. We help you guys build that cold outbound infrastructure to basically double what your SDR team is doing, double what your in-house team is doing. So with that being said, if you guys are interested in actually signing more upmarket clients, more strategies, GDM, stuff like that, first thing is right down below. Other than that, I'll catch you guys in the next one. Hope this video was valuable. For those of you guys that stayed to the end, you guys are absolute G's.